My wife was trying as hard as she could to get me to believe because she wanted me to experience what she was going through. And I saw a change in my wife, but I just didn't put two and two together. I just thought that my wife had found something that she really enjoys, and just like a hobby maybe. I was in my early 20s, and I had decided to look into Christianity and to see if there was a God and if Jesus was real. So I went to a church, and I thought it was just going to be like every other church, and it turned out to be that it was more for show. And so I felt like it was exposed to me that God couldn't be real, and so I just chose to believe in nothing after that. I went from on the verge of believing and accepting to not believing in anything at all because of that experience. It turned me away from it. So I went through life trying to do it on my own, and I ended up becoming an alcoholic, and I ended up becoming a pothead, and I ended up in and out of trouble. And then when I did meet my wife, I was trying to do relationships on the way I knew how to do them. And so before it was even began, I was almost in divorce. And then I had a kid, so I didn't have a relationship with my son, because I was too busy doing what I wanted to do, living life my way. My wife's grandma had asked my wife if she would like a Bible. She says, "If I send you one, will you read it?" And she said, "Oh yeah, of course I will." My wife stuck it on the shelf for a good year or so. So one night, in the middle of the night, someone woke her up, and she had this urge to want to read the Bible. And not soon after that, she became a believer. She turned her life over to Christ. My response was, "Good for you." One day I woke up and she was tearing through the whole entire house, getting rid of everything that she thought that wouldn't be Christian-like, and that God wouldn't want her to be looking at or reading. And so I went right behind her, had a big stash in the bedroom where I didn't want her to find it. And then our neighbor was constantly inviting us to go to Alpha with her, and time again my wife would tell her no. And then finally my wife said yes, because she said she didn't want to be rude anymore, so she said yes. And then I was like, "Okay, that's fine, you can go." She goes, "No, I need you to go with me." And I was like, "Okay, well, no, not really." And then she asked me, it was several times, and finally I said, "Okay, I do love you and I will support you, so I'm going to go." And I went with my arms crossed, kicking and screaming. And they went around the room, asked everybody why we were here, and I said, "Well, I'm here to support my wife, and I'm not going to believe a word you guys say." And during that whole time, my wife had asked me if I would say somewhat of a sinner's prayer at night, and I asked Jesus if he was real to come into my life. And so I did it out of love for my wife, and not knowing that it was slowly opening the door for me. I think I was wanting something at that point to happen, and I was looking for something. And so we went back to Alpha, and they were showing a video, and these two ladies that went around and put Bibles in people's mailboxes, and they were told that they couldn't do it, and they kept doing it. So they were thrown in jail, and they were imprisoned, and they were beaten, and they were separated, and they were told that they were going to possibly be killed if they continued doing it. They got out and they continued doing it. Years later, they were at a conference, and this lady came up and said, "Well, I'm one of the ones you stuck a Bible in my mailbox, and my whole family came to Christ." And so I thought, well, if all that can happen, there has to be a God. And then I was sitting in group, and everybody was talking, and then halfway through that group, I just shouted out, "I think I believe. No, I do believe." And then it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I became a believer from that day on. And I've been on fire ever since then. And so now I go out and tell as many people as I can about Christ, so that they can have the same relationship that I have with Christ.